All right, we are actually recording this now. So Jonty Skinner and Kirk Grant, thanks for joining us here on the podcast today. And this is being led by Jonty, and Kirk's going to add a lot of value here as well. So this will be a great conversation. We're going to talk about AI and what it's doing right now, where it's at, where we think it's going in terms of human performance, and especially obviously around swimming. So Jonty, I'll kind of let you kickstart this. Well, first of all, Kirk, just for everyone who doesn't know you, because most people know Jonty, he's very famous. But Kirk, where are you, and how do people know you right now?
Jonty, I'm not a world record holder, so that's something I don't have. So I work for USA Swimming. My title is Specialist National Team High Performance. And so basically my job ranges from helping coaches, helping athletes, helping people get faster. I mean, I think that's basically it. Answering questions, pointing people in the right directions to the science of the sport. But most of the questions I get is, how do I get X faster?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the human AI still, so that's
yeah.
You got the human side. But Jonty, why were you thinking about this? Where's this stemming from? Obviously, AI is huge right now, and it's having a big impact. But where do you see it going ultimately?
Well, it came up primarily because we were in this position where we were looking for a new CEO for USA Swimming and a new national team director. And in having a conversation with people involved in the search committee, my position was that we really should be hiring someone that understood what the future looked like and understood how to manage the future and get the best out of what the future could bring to the sport. And I wasn't necessarily for someone that was, I didn't want a good old boy, so to speak, just to use that term. That's just just a label, if you understand what I'm saying. As a placeholder.
That's the Alabama in you right there.
Shush. So, so I didn't want a placeholder. I really wanted, hopefully we could find someone in the system that was forward thinking, that could see what the future would bring for us and had a sense of how AI would impact our sport in the future. And in having those conversations, I began to think about really saying, okay, what is it? And what does it mean? And what is it going to bring to us? And even at my tender age of 70, in the 70s, I'm still really intrigued and interested in everything about sport. I'm technically a retired swimming coach, but I'm not really retired mentally. And so I think about these things and put things together, and I've sent stuff to Kirk. And so I wanted to take the time today to maybe say, what does it look like? What does it involve? What are the areas that we really need to be concerned about as far as AI involvement first? And then how is each of those components going to be integrated into an AI matrix that we can then help support coaches to improve high performance? So I was hoping that, especially with Kirk, because Kirk, if ever I've had a question, if ever I was looking for a question to a problem or an answer to a problem, I would go to Kirk. I'd say, hey, Kirk, have you run across this? And what are your thoughts on this? And he's probably as well-read as anyone I know in the business of swimming, and always has a great opinion and always has a great disposition in terms of how he relates that opinion to you, which I think is as important an element of anyone as far as his position and the position he fills within USA Swimming. So I thought it'd be a great group to chew the fat. And, we could take this whole concept of your sprint kind of concept that you've been pushing lately. And what does that look like in the future as well? Right. So you should speak to that. So if you could pull up that first.
I'm going to pull the slide up real quick. I want Kirk to answer just one question. In terms of today, early January 2025, how are coaches using AI just today, you think? Like what impact has it had initially on swim coaching?
I think right now people are trying to figure out exactly how to use it. I think from what I've seen at the club level, I think compiling workouts is a big thing that I think that a lot of coaches are exploring. If I can feed workouts to AI and it can help me with my themes or what I'm hitting or not hitting, I think
organization,
that's one facet. Yeah, organization, that's one facet. And then what we're trying to dive into here at USA Swimming is sort of an automated race analysis system. I think some other countries are in that already, and using that as a high level, like post-race, pre-race scouting analysis. So I think right now, both those are where AI is at.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Welcome to the Sprint Revolution School. This is the culmination of my life's work. Everything I've learned coaching some of the world's elite athletes, including Cesar Cielo, Fred Busquet, Bruno Fratis, and leading my Auburn team to the NCAA championship in 2009 alongside the legend Richard Quick. Now all of that knowledge is available to you. Our program is structured into easy-to-follow, interactive modules designed to take you from where you are today to becoming the fastest swimmer you've ever been. Check out the link in the description or simply search The Sprint Revolution on school.com to get started. Let's pull up this presentation here. Jonty to share. All right. This is just the start of the, so we'll go down to the second slide here, Jonty.
Yeah, I had I put these AI spokes out here because all these areas are very involved in high performance. I mean, there are probably bits and pieces that we don't show in here, or there are a lot of sub layers in the spokes that we have here. But I feel like all these areas, if we could talk about today, what do they look like in the future? And I think Kirk already alluded to where one of those areas have to be. The whole cataloging of what's being done in the training environment.
Let me just say this, Jonty, as well. There are people listening to this. Not everybody watches it. I love watching it, but a lot of people listen. So if you could just go through the tabs on what's on the screen, just so people listening can have an understanding as well.
Okay, so the areas that I think are the most important that we need to understand are training, biomechanics, coaching, anthropometry, recovery, the physicality, the physiology of the athlete, racing or race analysis, athlete mindset. So there are 8 components to that spoke. And they can all, as AI is really, really stupid until you fill AI with information. We all know that. And the key to being successful in using AI is really how we go about the process of uploading that information into the system so that it can become very smart and intelligent with regard to how it advises back to us with regard to what we're doing. So I think Kirk already alluded to the whole concept that initially cataloging all the work that we're doing with our athletes is one of the first and most important steps we can do. I mean, we can go way back to the 1980s when we first started to try to catalog energy systems or energy categories and stuff like that. And most of it was based off the original East German system or what the Russians used or what the Europeans generally used. And USA Swimming has had a cataloging system in place for a long time. Australia has theirs. Europe have different ones. There's a whole variety of them. Even John Abanchik had his color-coded system, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to define what we want to use in terms of our system. And then we have to really go about the process of getting everyone to catalog it. And when you have products like Commit, and I've talked to the CEO, the guy who owns Commit or runs Commit. I mean, it would be very easy for Commit to get into the process to where you would automate the system. So if I could put in every bit of Michael Phelps's workouts, or if I could take Bob Bowman, for instance, and just catalog every workout he's given to, all the great athletes he's given in his time, and because he's one segment of what you can do to develop an athlete, but not every athlete fits Bob Bowman's system. So then we have to go look for all those different varieties of approaches to how you train athletes and develop athletes, and then really catalog and organize it in a way to where anyone can come and look at what it took over a 10 to 12 year span, or what it took to develop Michael Phelps, or where Leon is right now in that same continuum with where he started with Bob and to where he might go in the next 4 years type of thing. But that has to be done for a variety of different styles of athletes who bring different things to the table, anywhere from a high volume, high intensity developing system like Bob might introduce to athletes to where Cam McAvoy, who did everything on his own, or Jason Lezak, who did everything on his own. So we have to find a cataloging system, get it organized, find an automated way to do it to where a camera can scan a piece of paper and boom, upload it immediately and have it cataloged and organized and integrated into the framework. So all these areas have to be sort of cataloged in their own way. Biomechanics, the product coming out of Australia called the EOS Swim Better product is probably the best product I know of on the market today that could potentially have an AI filter in there to look at, basically, instead of you looking at, and you look at all the information that you can get out of the Swim Better product, and it can be really confusing, and it can have a lot of information, and it can have a lot of things going on. Have an AI product be able to sit over the top and say, this is exactly what you're looking at, and this is where we need to go, type of thing, to just simplify the process. We know we have different coaching styles. I mean, there are a lot of different coaches that fit bring different philosophies, different coaching delivery styles to the table. And so we have to understand who they are and what they bring to the table, what their philosophies are, what type of program they like to deliver, and catalog them in that way. Athlete anthropometry is all about limb lengths, limb sizes, hand, feet sizes, girths, upper body size to lower body size, torso shape, ecto, endo, that whole thing. We have to be able to catalog all of that and be able to measure it into a system to where when we're looking at the combination of biomechanics and athlete anthropometry, we should be able to put it all into a matrix to where people say, right, we should be, I'm going to use the example of, say, someone like, let's take the best female swimmer in the world potentially right now is Christian Walsh. And I mean, and I pick her because of her height, her size, her, anthropometer level lengths, and all the things that she brings to the table. And she goes, some short course, and she just destroys anyone short course because she's great underwater. If she gets to long course, it becomes a little tougher to handle because you don't have as much influence in the underwater element. And my thinking when I watch her as a coach, my thinking is she should destroy the world records in the 50 and 100 meter freestyles, absolutely destroy them. But it's going to take biomechanical adjustments based on all the things I talked about to get it to get there. But I think computers and AI can tell us the path to get there and what to do. But I know it's there, and we should have that facility in place.
Kirk, let me ask you that based on that, just to jump in terms of biomechanically, I'd imagine USA Swimming has years and years and years of quality information when it comes to biomechanics. So is there any process that has already begun in terms of organizing that through AI?
Well, not necessarily organizing, but definitely feeding it to AI to sort of give models of, and there's like unlimited potential with this AI, with this interface. I think from training a AI to have like a goggles and they can watch the pattern of the stroke over and over, to like sort of what Jonty's saying about coaching. I think the greatest coaches have refined a decision-making tree throughout their careers, and they get really good at making good decisions. I think what AI does is it just targets that stuff faster. And I think it gives you, leaps you ahead of some of those trial and errors and gives you a very specific indication of what's going to help this athlete get faster. And then, I mean, obviously it's not all, it's part of the answer. It's not the whole answer. And I think it just helps that decision tree get refined at a much faster level than having to coach for 30 years and learn all the wrong ways or learn all the, make all those mistakes. Whereas you can feed things to AI, and weak stroke is a great example for me, where it's well, Michael Phelps worked his weak stroke. What did that look like for that year? And it got better, right? And so how could we ask AI those sorts of questions and get some guidance of well, if it's breaststroke, weak stroke, this progression seems to work really, really well, right? Or whatever the stroke may be, backstroke, butterfly. Obviously, it's really easy to have your best stroke and make the best stroke better. I mean, I say that in both ways. Like I know it's hard to be an elite athlete go faster, but remember we're trying to win gold medals. Gold medals are really hard to win, right? So I think asking better questions and having better data through AI, whether it's biomechanic data or racing data, mindset data, like you can really, really refine and pinpoint some of these topics at a high level.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Jonty. Just want to jump in there.
No, anytime. And I mean, I'm just going around the spoke here. So, I mean, to me, the recovery, arm of the spoke is probably one of the most important elements of athlete performance. I mean, if you do not manage recovery, all the elements associated with recovery, sleep, mood, all the elements that are in this area, then we don't know. And I've had some conversations. I'm going to look at recovery, and I'm going to skip forward a little bit to mindset because they're sort of in the same realm. I mean, when I talked to a leading psychologist about a month ago about where are we in AI and psychology, where are we in the world of AI and psychology, and his feeling was that we still are a long way away from being able to document and catalog all the different elements that can give us information and provide faster, as Kirk said, faster decisions in terms of, I take, for example, there are coaches who ask the athletes to ask a certain mood state questionnaire every morning, every day. And that gives them a pretty good idea when they look at that. It gives them a pretty instant picture of like, okay, Eddie Reese was maybe really good at just looking at someone's face walking on deck and saying, Josh is going to be a problem today. I mean, I might have to have a little side conversation with him to gauge where he's at, to get him ready to go to practice or make decisions of what I might or might not do in the practice. So coaches have been really good at this, intuitively, but not every coach has that intuitive sense. And so if we create an environment where we are kind of cataloging, organizing all this survey and maybe testing, blood testing, all the different, even cortisol testing, a saliva cortisol test can go into the matrix to give us an indication of where we are on that scale of fatigue, soreness, readiness, mental preparation, ready to go type of thing. I think that would be real important, but I think it's an area that's probably very weak as far as where we are in terms of going forward in the future. And, in terms of athletes, I mean, I think of them as, very, very, very durable, strong, naturally with regard to their genetics. Some have to be helped to understand how to be naturally strong because their genetics don't put them in that position. So I put epigenetics into the system because epigenetics does impact everything about us. And there are certain cultures in the world that have a much longer way to go in order to overcome some of the things that are intrinsic within their culture. And I use the word culture because if you can just take a look at the United States, if you look at the culture that was pervasive in the athlete community in the 1970s to 1980s versus maybe where it is today with the real, with the media and the telephone and the cell phone and how much it's changed the climate of how we see ourselves as human beings today and the world we live in today is very, very different. So I think we have to sort of really get a grip on where media, cell phones, the environment that kids are growing up in today, the more self-serving, self-centered environment that they're growing up in today, and put that into this whole mix so we understand that a lot more in terms of how we prepare our athletes to perform. And then we have the last two. One is the physiology of the athlete, which I think is the most interesting. And in my mind is second on my criteria. I rank mindset, physiology, anthropometry, biomechanics as my tree of order of things that are most important to me if I'm looking at how this all fits together. So the physical aspects, the physiology of the athlete, how naturally they float or balance in the water, their muscle fiber type of things that they bring to the table. Because to be honest with you, if I had a choice, I would be looking for a team full of fast twitch aerobic type fiber athletes. The majority of the athletes are in that realm because they have great capacity to do anything you want to do, and depends on the durability as to how good they can be, type of thing. So, and then with the last element that we haven't talked about is the racing and the race analysis. And we have to be to a point where we can put one camera at the top of a pool and be able to bring out from that one camera everything we ever wanted to know about what was going on in the pool. I mean, they're already doing it on the video at the Olympics, where you get velocities and who's ahead. And especially when you look at camera views at the Olympics, you can't really always tell who's ahead. You get confused by the angle of the camera. But I mean, all these elements are in place, right? They're in place. We just have to really sit down, I think, as a community, and really plan the way out forward with regard to how we're going to get this all together and be ready to take full advantage of it 5 to 10 years from now, instead of getting to 5 to 10 years from now and saying, gee, I wish we'd done this, I wish we'd done that, type of thing. And I know we were talking before we got on the official call, and Kirk was talking about Formula One. So I think you should expand on that and just go back to some of the things Formula One is doing, because it's a great environment in racing to talk about that area.
Yeah. I mean, the next slide here is the training content, and this is where it gets very specific. And I think this is what you kind of alluded to with the Formula One side of it, is that they're looking at every single detail right now in Formula One, like every hundredth counts, and the way that teams interrelate to get the best out of the vehicle and the driver, collectively. And I think this is kind of what AI can do for us in the future in terms of our training. And so you just go on, touch on that, Kirk.
Well, just like the 30,000-foot view is, we got to make it fun to watch, right? Like, and I think Formula One is a great example of that. Like they've done the Drive to Survive. They like take you into the drivers' lives, the crew's life. I mean, it just shows you that, and then it shows you the other side of it too, where it's the science side. It's how the engineers work, how the pit crew works. And I think they've done a great job of bringing insight to the sport. And I think they've done a great job of growing the sport. Not that it was ever bad, but I think now more people watch Formula One than I've ever would have imagined. Right. And I think, sort of to Jonty's point, it's like, we can't wait. Like, we have to use these assets as best we can to make the sport as exciting as possible, right? I think if we don't have fans in the stands and we don't have people engaged in what we're doing, then that's a big loss. So I do think that AI can help in many facets. I think qualitatively, like a lot of this training content's quantitative stuff, and I think most swim coaches, or the good ones that I've been around, quantitatively, they're able to track training, and like the numbers are a thing they're really, really good at. The opposite side is the qualitative stuff. So it's like, maybe where your neck of the woods, Brett, where it's like, okay, when this athlete was at peak and they went as fast as they've ever swum, what did that feel like, look like how did they go about that from a emotional space or cognitive space, and how do we track that over time? I think the longitudinal aspect of AI and just like athlete profile, I won't say a biography, but just like an athlete's from young to teenager to professional, like that transformation to those facets of their career. This could be a huge help in that. And then, transitioning from the national junior team to the national team is a big transition. And then from national team to professional is a big transition. And how are we stepping in to help those steps or help those transitions and smooth those out? Because you're changing coaches in a lot of ways. And you see with the transfer portal now and college swimming, people are going to lots of different places, lots of different coaches. So what are we keeping constant to help them swim fast consistently? And I think AI is a huge component in helping those gaps.
Have you and your team consciously decided, like, outwardly, verbally amongst yourselves, to say, all right, we're in the midst of this now, like it's begun, like we have to get ahead of this, or we have to jump on board with this, and this is how we're going to do it? Have you done anything collectively yet to kind of start the process of doing some of this stuff?
Yes, we've been working pretty heavily with the USOPC on a project to get the race analysis side of this up and running. And then obviously we're in a limbo right now. We don't know what shoe is going to drop, but we're going to be ready to hand this person, whoever gets the job, here's what we've got, here's where we think we can go, let's go. And so that's sort of the plan, but we're just kind of in a waiting game right now. Yeah.
I won't put you on the spot and ask you what's the update on the limbo then, but
the update is there is no update. I'm very
yeah, we're all waiting, but that's good. At least you're working while you're waiting, which is good, right? There's work being done, so that's positive.
Yeah.
I think it's the real key is creating, sitting down and saying, okay, what is it going to look like? What do we really have to do today to start the process of getting things organized? And so I think really, in my mind, we have to get a group of real smart people in a room, because it all starts with smart people, and then say, okay, how are we going to catalog this? What are we going to catalog here? What's going to catalog here? What's going to catalog here? How are we going to organize it? How is it going to be put in and uploaded into the system? Who's going to maintain the framework that uploads the system? And so if we don't get that organized, like really soon, even getting it started before we even have a new leader type of thing, which is the reason I'm saying is we need to find someone that is comfortable in working in this realm, is that, the longer we take, the longer it's going to take. It's just, performance is generational. Changing your level of performance as a country in many ways can be generational. Maybe not so much the USA, because we have a greater number of swimmers to choose from, but some countries it becomes generational. Heroes beget heroes. I mean, we're seeing some of the Australians we see, obviously from Thorpe and Hackett in those years, and so on and so forth, right? So I really think that by just maybe having this discussion and putting it out there, that maybe some people will get together and say, listen, we need to really organize and see what this looks like, and see if we can get our head around it, and then start putting out what's going to cost, because it's going to cost money to put it all together in process, because the end result is, what does it look like? Is if you take biomechanics, athlete physiology, and athlete anthropometry, and you kind of mix those together and look at how they're all working in tandem with regard to the output in terms of racing and output in terms of performance, we should be able to be putting in enough information from race analysis and all this stuff to be saying, are we hitting the mark? Are we not hitting the mark? I mean, we've got this athlete that she's 190 centimeters, hand size, base of the hand to the tip of the finger, 35 centimeters. We got all this information that says we should be producing a 50.5, but we're only getting a 51.9. What's going wrong? Where are we going wrong? Type of thing. And so I just feel like it's there. We just, I've always been the kind of person that said, let's get it going and get it kickstarted and put the stuff in place and get it going, as opposed to the person that just was willing to hang around and wait until it came into my realm and said, okay, I'll use it when it gets here, type of thing. So that's really what it's about, because, if you flip, just keep going through all these, just keep going. All the way through to, so this is go back one. So what are the most important elements of how we're going to, what do I see is, Kirk might have a different opinion from me, but to me, the athlete mindset is the peak of the pyramid. Understanding the athlete mindset, understanding how to take an athlete with not a great mindset and help them become an athlete that has a Michael Phelps mindset, or Leon mindset, or the person that just steps on the block and never thinks they're ever going to lose, type of thing. So how do we get there? How do we get to that? I mean, the physiology side is fairly is not simple. I mean, we can't go and take, we can't do muscle biopsies and stuff like that. It has to be, I can spend quite a bit of time training athletes or looking at athlete training or looking at the results of athlete training in terms of performance, set performance, recoveries and all that, and start to gain a pretty good idea that this athlete is a very high level of FTA fiber, and that athlete has a very high level of FTB fiber, and this athlete has a lot of maybe slow twitch fiber, whatever it is. Right now it tends to be somewhat anecdotal in terms of some of the physiology that we have to assume is in place. Some of it we can measure in terms of aquatic signature and stuff like that. But the idea is that, if you have the mindset and the physiology, that's half the battle. Then anthropometry, you have the size and the shape and the biomechanics come along that. Recovery comes after that. Coaching is pretty far down the list. Training is almost at the bottom of my list, and race analysis is at the bottom of the list of the ranking is how I might rank them. Now, Kurt might rank them differently, and I'd love to hear if he would rank them differently. But
I definitely think mindset's the first. I mean, I think we would all agree. I want people that hate to lose. I mean, that's it. Like I want to build a team around that, and I think, like in my world, how do we help coaches create an environment where more people on the team hate to lose, right? And they come to practice and they give everything in the pool, and then they're able to go race. And I mean, obviously, again, we've talked about this. It's a human animal, so it's never going to be like as programmable as we want. We can't like put boop 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 boop. Okay, go. You're ready. I think that's why we all love what we do, because it's a challenge. But I do think that gathering information and having it sorted through some sort of AI can really help coaches, and maybe not elite coaches. So I think some of the elite coaches already are really good at creating these environments. But if we can get back to the grassroots of the sport and help maybe not the big name coaches be really better at creating this environment, a competitive environment where kids are going after it every day, but it's supportive and all those things we always talk about. I think if you get the bigger pool of, no pun intended, the bigger pool of swimmers swimming at a higher level, that just pushes the cream of the crop further and faster, right?
Completely agree.
Yeah, one of the as I look through all of this stuff, which is really valuable, and I think it's interesting because it seems like we're going in a way, and it seemed like this for a little while. It's like we're going into a very kind of individual performance type criteria where we're trying to get the best out of one person, and I still think that, especially in America, when you're talking about teams of groups of people, teams of people, how to get the best out of an individual in relation to a team of people at the same time, right? Like, and I think that's what USA Swimming is ultimately trying to do too, is when they compete against other nations, is bring teams of people together. And I've seen what they've done, over the past 4 or 5 Olympics, where it's becoming more small group centered. It used to just be one big team. It would be like a men's team or a women's team, or it might just be the whole team. And then it became like these little segmented groups. And then it just became even more individualized in that. And it seems that's where we're going in terms of like top end performance, is like trying to figure out what's the best mindset and physiology and biomechanics and training for this one individual. So now I think we've got to also add in there, how does this relate to a team of people, right? Because we've all been in a situation where we may have had incredible athletes and they don't necessarily work well together, or even willing to work well together because they might be competitors. So that's got to be part of the AI kind of evolution, is figuring out how to create a great team as well, right?
I agree. But I feel like our athletes, we have to teach our athletes to understand everything about the sport.
Yep.
For years and years, kids would come to the pool and they just get in there and train. Get in there and do the work, shut up and go, Now we really need to get into an environment where it's a two-way street and there's a lot of communication going on. Because to be honest with you, in this future world, I feel like the athlete has as much managerial control over what's going on as the coach at the elite level. I'm not talking about the development age group level. I'm talking about at that elite level. And I'll take the Jason Lezak example or the Cam McAvoy example of athletes that actually went on their own and were very, very successful doing everything they did on their own. So I feel like with AI, we can have a team of great athletes. You can have a pro team that might have 10 to 12 really good athletes in there, and some of them might be even competitive in the same races. But the platform that you're interacting with them on is an AI-based platform. They might all come to practice, and you might get them in and going, and they might be doing similar things, but in different ways. But the idea is that it can be all managed very easily if the athlete has a lot more say and understanding and control over the environment that they're in. And when you get that in place, then I think that you've really got the best of all worlds, as opposed to coaches that still like to be, it's my way or the highway. I don't see a coach like that coaching in 2030. I don't see them being successful at the elite end in 2030. So
what's up? This is Nate from SwimNerd. Just letting you guys know about SwimNerd timing. We now offer the most affordable, the easiest to use timing system in the world. We got it all. Starters, harnesses, buttons, touchpads, scoreboards, your one-stop shop for all your timing needs. Check us out at swimpractice.com.
So these are supporting coaches beyond 2030, but that could be supporting swimmers and coaches beyond 2030. I mean, those are things that, I as a coach might have 10 swimmers. So I would say, hey, Jim, listen, make sure that you're going through all the AI information and checking all the readouts with regard to where we are performance-wise and where are we hitting our markers, because I want you to come into our meeting tomorrow and I want you to have the responsibility to sit down with me and say, hey, listen, we're missing it here, here, and here. So I might be coaching 10 athletes, and they're the ones doing the work to really to understand where we are and how we are and what we're doing. And then I'm sort of overseeing it, managing it, and, helping and adding little bits and pieces to the puzzle based on my vast experience as a coach with regard to, and then hitting the training the next day and the next day and the next day. So to me, a coach doesn't necessarily have to be a jack of all trades or a master, whatever type of thing, but they have to be really good at allowing the people that they work with, whether it's assistant coaches or scientists or people that are just in support of their system, to really be able to communicate to them and give them all the information they need to then go out and really make good, smart, informed decisions that are in many ways managed and driven by their athletes anyway.
Have you seen this, Kirk, up at Colorado Springs? I mean, you get the best of the best up there, and you see the best athletes, you see the best coaches. How has this been reflected?
Yeah, it's been awesome. And I do want to speak to the challenge that is, we are a decentralized nation in terms of our program. So we have a lot of pockets of elite athletes everywhere, and there's a lot of diverse training going on. And so it is a very big challenge as an Olympic head coach to basically, you're the conductor of a symphony, but you've never really worked with the group that you're about to go to the concert with, right? So where AI can help with that is just good information. And the better data that coach has, the more he can get out of each section of the orchestra, right? And then you can have those conversations, the tough conversations, but if you have better data and accurate stuff, those conversations are less hearsay, right? It's less rumor, it's just more brevity to the conversation than, well, I think this, or the art this, or so it just gives you some ammunition to have really productive conversations. But I do think that there is an aspect of, okay, you have to have the individual really good, but then the overall concert and the overall orchestra has to play really well together. And that's a big balance. And I do think that the best programs, to echo what Jonty said, athlete ownership and savvy athletes are the future. I think that with information out there right now, like a kid can get on and learn more about training physiology and coaching and leadership than they've ever been able to before, right? So it's on us, on the coaches and the support staff, to be up on all that, to be able to match what they bring. And I think that the best athletes and coaches I've ever been around, and the best of the best, it's a collaboration, and they're making each other better along the way.
And you said you saw a little bit of that last night, right? Where you had a team of guys kind of being led by the guys. The program, the workout was being led by the team. Is that right?
Yep, it was an athlete-driven workout, so where they separate to groups, whether that's 2 free group, 2 fly group, 2 back group, distance group. The group designs the workout together, and they all have iterations. They add and take away the workout, and these aren't like, it wasn't like a fluff, write your own workout type stuff. It was like 40, 50s. It was go stuff. It was hard work, right? But they designed it, they led it, they did it, and they were on each other the whole time. And so the group made each other better. And to me, that's just masterful on a lot of levels, right? Head coach didn't even need to be there for this culture to run itself, which was really neat. So I would say that's a great example of what the elite coaches and athletes are doing right now.
Nice. What's the next? What else? Oh, that's the end of the slide there. So yeah,
but there's one more just supporting beyond 230. I just think, these I don't. They're a little small on the screen. I don't know if you want to read it out for people that are just listening in on this, but
yeah.
I would say, I'll just read. I say, hey, I should be able to analyze the relationship between training performance data to a strength weakness analysis, suggest strategies to coach address opportunities. Future faster performance goals should have training specific parameters, and in training testing should show a steady trend in the right direction. All recovery holistic parameters should be monitored daily, things like whoop or additional stuff, that surveys that we might get, and kinetic to training implementation. So, I really feel like it's an area that, when we can put it together in the way we're talking about, and we make it accessible to everyone, then I think every day just creates a far more positive environment in terms of day-to-day training. I really do. It just, if you take that along with the physicality, with the combination of biomechanics and thermometry and physiology type of thing, and you put that and race analysis, and you put this all together, I feel like if we work hard at it right now, 10 years from now, just like Kirk said, we're at the Olympic Games, we've done through the prelims, we get a printout of the race analysis relative to where we are. And, we can sit down with athletes and say, listen, we're on track, we're where we are, get your meal in. When you get to the pool tonight, let's just work on this little facet of approaching a turn or how we come off a wall. Just give them just one or two things, and boom, it's all ready to go. I just feel like we need to do more, and especially with the NIL landscape and where it's going. I keep hoping and praying that someone's going to come along and say, we need to put a cap on NIL. We need to put a cap on how much we can pay a football team, how much we can pay a basketball team, because if we don't get a cap real soon, Olympic sports are gone. I mean, we're going to have maybe Texas. I don't know how many schools out there are going to be able to survive with regard to in the NIL environment and be fully funded. But if we don't get a cap on it real soon, we're probably going to have about 10 to 12 teams in this country that are fully funded, that are essentially going to become training centers. But there are going to be a lot of other athletes that are looking for support systems. So we need additional training centers. And we've got to think in advance of where that's going to be and how the money's going to be appropriated and where we're going to find the money, because money's becoming seriously scarce out there with the way things are going as far as the athlete community is concerned. So I just, I just said a lot of this came out of discussions with who we're going to hire to be our national team director and what kind of vision and foresight they're going to have with regards to what that playing field is going to look like, whether it's monetarily, whether it's performance, science, the whole ball of wax going forward.
Yeah, changing landscape for sure. I saw something on social media yesterday where a billionaire was former owner of an NBA team, I believe, either NBA or NFL, and he was talking about buying a 51% stake in universities. So like billionaires would come in and buy the university and own it. Like, wow, that's a whole different concept, isn't it?
Certainly a business, but I do
Yeah.
think there are creative solutions, like whether it's a wearable technology and it's like everybody on the national team or the junior national team and even gets a wearable, and then you have competitive, like across the country, you can do a test set, or you can have like sort of like Strava, where it's like, oh, this person did this, and it's just like you can see the cream of the crop rise and you get engagement. I think there's ways to make it exciting. I just think we have to look at it differently.
Yeah, I'm using wearables with my pros right now, and the information is really interesting, especially on the sleep recovery side. Where the biggest buzzword in the world of health these days is longevity, right? And I think that's really important for athletes too, longevity for athletes, and how we can get them to, perform and train and live longer in the sport, right? I watched this documentary, Don't Die, the other day. Oh, there's a book there. Sorry. What does that book say?
Breaking the age code.
Oh, there we go. There we go. That's really important for you and I right now, Jonty.
Hey, I'm going to be 30. I'm going to be 37. I don't know.
Jonty, come on, man, 37. Yeah, but yeah, I watched this documentary, Don't Die. Have you guys seen that yet?
I've heard of it. Fascinating.
Really interesting. Yeah, really fascinating. He's talking about like extending his life, and I think a lot of it relates to athletics, is like extending your life in athletics, and I think we're seeing that. The athletes are staying in the sport longer for a variety of reasons that Jonty has already listed there, like the information that we're gathering, the knowledge that we're gathering, the specificity is keeping us in the sport and helping us go faster at a later age. And I think AI is going to be part of that process undoubtedly as well, right?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I think LeBron James is a great example of that. I mean, I know that he's publicly put out there how much he spends on recovery, his process, and what that all entails. And I mean, to be in the NBA for over 20 years is amazing, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And playing at the level he's
so
playing.
Rare.
So I would definitely, and that's just one case study, but I know there's others out there that are probably using AI to do this, honestly, like whether it's a recovery modality where like some machines monitoring their range of motion, and they can say like, well, yesterday you were here, today you're here, and it just beeps if the range of motion isn't there. And so like it sort of guides their stretching recovery. So I definitely think that this is an arena for AI to shine.
Are you seeing coaches yet make decisions based on wearable technology? Let's say the recovery score isn't where it needs to be on somewhere it's really, really low or something like that. Are you seeing coaches make individual decisions yet on saying, hey, we're going to back off instead of push forward?
I think, and this is pretty analog, but to Jonty's point at the very beginning of just that 5-question questionnaire, like coaches are definitely making decisions on how to approach athletes, how they're coming in with mood, or like they didn't get much restful sleep. And so, like how I'm going to approach an athlete that didn't sleep well or is stressed about an exam is definitely going to be different than somebody that's been sleeping really well, is in a generally good mood, and is ready to be sort of coached and pushed hard. Right. That's one example. I'd say any good coach, it's a metric, it's one variable. And so you sort of collect variables and then decide. But I think what this tool will be able to do is compile those variables in a way that's easy to digest. And again, like make really accurate decisions over and over and over. And if you make small decisions that are really good, generally that adds up to behavior change and getting faster, leaner, stronger, whatever it is.
Well, you mentioned this earlier, Jonty, in terms of like information at the top level, and I'm coaching club right now, so that's a new experience for me, and coaching younger kids, and I'm seeing an element of parents within the Southern California region, making a lot of decisions based on this new information that they have at hand, right? Like they have this AI, the same as what we have at their fingertips, and that can be good and bad, right? Like they can be really taking in quality information. They can be taking in too much information and using it kind of in a way that is not appropriate yet for the age that their kids are in. And there is still a process. And with all of this, we're still talking about the fact that you've still got to go out and do the work. You still got to work hard, right? You can gather all the information you want, but yeah, I'm definitely seeing a little scary in terms of like the quality of information, and then just the amount of information that parents are taking in and then applying it to their children as well. Are you seeing that in soccer? Because you deal with that in soccer.
No, I don't. I don't. It might be out there, but I don't see it as much in soccer. It's first because I deal with. Really, I just started coaching the boys this year, so I've been coaching girls up to now. And girls don't watch soccer. They really don't take any interest in soccer outside of coming to the field to play soccer. So don't have much of a problem. The boys are different though. They come to the game with impressions of things they've watched on TV or watched on YouTube and stuff like that, and they want to institute them and get them involved. And you see them try to do something in a game that doesn't work in a game, type of thing. But to be honest with you, I mean, we're always going to have that element with the world, the media, the access to media, the way it is today. That element's been there for a while, and it's going to be there going forward, and it's going to be a pain in the butt as long as it's there. But it'll only be a pain in the butt if you don't have the wherewithal within your system to counteract that, to say, well, listen, this is the best system. This is how it should work. This is how it should all be coordinated. And this is how we're doing it. And if you want to be a part of the system, the way it's being done, the way we're doing it, then you're welcome to join us. If you don't, then maybe you need to join someone else. And I think it's always going to come down to that. And I agree, Kirk touched on something earlier that I think is probably the most important thing. We talked about that today and said, is that as we learn all this information at the top end, we have to really then make sure that it gets filtered and translated down to what it looks like at the bottom end, so that we are starting to put kids at age 7, 8, 9, and 10 into the right type of environments to grow them, to prepare them to be able to facilitate what we want them to facilitate at the elite end. And when we can really get the groundswell doing the right things at age 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then through the age group level, those formative years, then, we're going to be much, much better. I've been reading a great book recently by a guy named Doug Lemoff, probably the most interesting guy I've read in a long time, who talks about really how how we approach learning and adaptation and stuff like this, specific to the game of soccer. But he says if kids haven't learned to see the field the right way by age 10, 11, or 12, they're never going to see it. They'll never see it. And I think that's the same thing in the sport of swimming, even though it's a very linear sport, and we're dealing with the dynamics of just biomechanics and mindset and stuff like that. I feel like if we put our kids in positions where they grow in a biomechanical patterns, or they understand biomechanical patterns a specific way, they can put themselves in a compromised position by age 12, 13, or 14, and you'll never be able to counteract that. You'll never be able to go back and say, we can retrace the steps and get you to 100% of your organic potential. Even though you took a wrong turn at age 10, 11, and 12, we can get you back on track to that 100%. I think that 100% of organic potential is lost at that point in time. So, relaying everything we learn and understand back to the age group level, I think this is an important component for this new national team director as anything. I don't think they can come in and sit over the top and see the top as the be-all and end-all of what they're doing. I think they really have to be able to interact with and translate all of this down to the age group level, the junior national team level, and below that, in order to filter it up the right way.
That's essentially the Formula One example, right? It's like, why does Ferrari and Mercedes and why do they invest so much in racing? Well, the technology they learn in racing goes down to the bottom, the production. Like, so it's a really unique filter. And I think it can be harnessed in that way. I think a lot of coaches struggle with developing athleticism, swim coaches, I should say. And so if we can help that and guide that, not only developing athleticism, but keeping athletes, just raw athletes in the sport, right? I think sometimes they just get trained out of the sport, and I don't think that that's going to help swimming in the United States or swimming globally, to get the best athletes not swimming. Does that make sense?
Amen.
Yeah.
You know, it is this. You know how Gretchen Walsh didn't end up in volleyball. I don't know. We are so lucky. We're so lucky
Yeah.
she's in the sport of swimming, because at least she's going to be, a standard bearer for someone that's that height and that physicality as she brings it to the sport. And it's hard to see that and really see that in the sport of swimming, because you don't really get a good impression of it. You don't really know how big Judge is until he stands next to his shortstop. Then you start saying, "Holy cow,
Yeah.
that guy's huge!" Right? So,
Well, we're also predominantly a white sport. We need to change that landscape too. We're losing a lot of athletes to football and basketball and other sports in this country as well. And I think the quality swimmers. And I think
this what this can give you is just a different metric. Like, to your parent comment, I teach lessons at a swim labs, and all I get from parents is like, oh, they go faster. And so I do think that with a program where it's like measuring more of the process goals for athletes and parents in general, like where they can see progress differently than did they drop time. Not that dropping time is like a bad thing. I just think, going faster is hard, and most of the elite athletes haven't gone a best time in a long time. And I don't think many parents of age troopers grasp that,
Yeah, and it's so short-lived. To me, it's like bubble gum. Put a bubble gum in your mouth, you get a best time, like immediately you want to go another best time. It never ends. So got it. What's next? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say too, I'm not exactly sure. Oh, what I was going to say is how I'm using AI. I'm taking AI, and I'm taking the 400 plus podcasts that I've done and trying to pull out the best pieces of information from all that, and cool. Somehow get that in the hands of all the coaches, instead of having to listen to hours and hours of podcasts. Is you take Jonty and you say, here's a nugget, and we just get the best nugget. So that's what I'm attempting to do in the future with the podcast. So yeah, I appreciate you guys being here today and doing this. This is good. Are there any AI programs other than ChatGPT that you know of that people are using or are really useful right now?
ChatGPT, like I think Claude, there's a number of
Claude,
similar models. I know there's a lot of coding models that people are using to write code, develop code, to teach. Yeah, there's just different versions and stuff like that. But
yeah, I really like what people are doing social media wise. Like I love the fact that there are people out there, there's swimmers out there, maybe even some coaches out there that are documenting this stuff and just sharing, little clips of things. I think that's so valuable too. Like when you see it too, you see somebody in Australia doing something, and within minutes you can see it and you can mimic it and you can do it. Like that to me is so valuable. So please, I encourage coaches, continue to put information out there through your cameras and through social media. There's some really good people doing really good things, and I think that the more people doing that, the better it is for us as well. So.
Absolutely, and everybody's got a camera these days. I don't know if it was like that in the 70s.
It was like hiding things. You weren't allowed to tell anybody anything. Now it's like, look at me, look what I'm doing. So yeah.
It's all about the
Um,
balance.
Jonty, Kirk, I appreciate this. Thanks for doing this, and we'll stay in contact. And then maybe a year from now, we'll come back and look at where we've
Where we're
gone.
at.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Cheers,
Peace.
bye.